So if you guys don't know who Eli Erlick is, Eli is an activist who has been very controversial for quite some time. And really, not because Eli's trans, but more so because they run in, what is it? Basically a drug smuggling operation. Not I wouldn't say smuggling. They send cross-sex hormones illegally to children around the country. They've admitted this many times. What's really interesting is this weekend, Eli met with a University of Georgia professor to discuss to discuss I guess they were researching far right extremism, which is what this professor seems to be their specialty in. Which is really interesting that the University of Georgia, a school that I was looking at going to, has somebody that is focusing on far right extremism, and that they would actually allow that professor to have an admitted criminal come join them at the university. Basically, it's aiding and abetting. So, but I guess since there's no warrants currently out for Eli's arrest, then they wouldn't get in trouble for that. But so let's get into this, though. So let me see. Yeah, on Saturday evening, Eli wrote, "I had to hide that I was in Georgia for the past 3 days for my safety as a trans woman," the post read. "Following attacks on trans youth plus my suggestion to ignore bans, there was a small worry that Governor Kemp would learn I was in the state. Several state officials have already called for my arrest." It's interesting because Georgia's not transphobic, I guess, right? So I live here. I've been all around this state, and this state has done nothing but welcome me. And if you remember a few months ago, so I assisted and I lobbied hard to pass a ban on puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgery for minors. Now, we didn't get puberty blockers, but we did ban cross-sex hormones and surgery for minors in the state. And so when Eli says that they, advise to ignore those bans, that's the law that Eli is telling them to ignore. So, Eli's statement had continued, "I am usually unconcerned about the risk because of my position as a white woman," kind of being snarky there, I think, right? The leftist notion that, the CRT notion that Eli somehow has privilege. But then continued, "However, with the recent bans on life-saving, gender-affirming medication, some of which I personally sent to GA, I'd rather be safe than sorry." Now, first of all, do you think Brian Kemp is sitting on his computer just watching what Eli's doing? I mean, it's such a narcissistic statement. It's pretty ironic. I mean, that's the problem, is Eli is such a narcissist that they think that, just because they come to this state, they're going to get treated poorly. No, the state's great. I love Georgia, honestly. But I will say, so my response actually when I saw this was, seriously, why hasn't the FBI arrested Eli yet? I also have news for you. Being trans is all good unless you're trying to abuse children with medicalization. Honestly, Chris Carr, the Attorney General of Georgia, should issue a warrant to have Eli extradited, as Eli just admitted that they are committing a crime and illegally supplying children drugs in Georgia. It's interesting. I mean, because I don't know why Eli thinks that they are so safe, because living in New York, because for one, this is committing a crime. I think the last time I looked it up, I could be wrong on this, but depending on how much you do it, it's a felony to send, prescription medications to others. It's against the law for you to even give your prescription drugs to a relative. So if you have if you have, let me see, if you have some pain medication at home, you have some Vicodin at home, and you give it to like your child or your husband or anybody that is not prescribed to, that is technically against the law. But this is sending it across state lines, which would make it an even more significant crime. And then it's sending it to children. And now we have in Georgia, now we've also passed SB 140, which means that not only is this issuing prescription drugs without a license, it's a clear violation of SB 140, which does have criminal penalties. And so yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens right now. Eli definitely needs to should be arrested for this. It would serve Eli right. In let me see. Yeah, does Eli not understand how deadly sharing medications can be? Apparently not. What's really interesting, and like estrogen and testosterone suppressants, generally wouldn't be too glaring. It wouldn't be too harmful. But honestly, if you take too much estrogen, than what would normally be prescribed for your weight and size, and then you're not getting regular blood tests while on it, I mean, you could be causing severe kidney damage. One of the issues with taking testosterone blockers, so spirolactolone is the testosterone blocker, and it's if your potassium levels drop too low, it can cause a lot of issues there. You can actually have actually, is it too low? Yeah, no, it's too high. Your potassium levels go too high, and you can actually go into shock from too high of that levels. But if you guys watched my interview on Thursday with Matt Ray, and we talked about testosterone, think about what that could do to a child or to anybody that is not prescribed that medication. Matt was prescribed a higher dose than normal. So if you're just getting these dosages from, somebody on the internet, then you don't know what you're taking. And then, yeah, dialysis at the whole other thing, because you could, hurt your kidneys by what you're taking. You can kill your liver depending on what you're taking. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes into it, and it's not just taking hormones. I mean, this is yeah, I in the article I said, because Eli has posted a number of times on social media about operating an illegal drug trafficking operation, because that's what this is. It is a drug trafficking operation. There's no other way to put it. I mean, this could be the FBI, it could be the DEA. I mean, it could be any of those alphabet organizations that do this. On Rumble, yeah, Randitarian Sis says Eli seems to be protected to a certain extent, which I just don't think that people they're not going after Eli for some reason. I think one, Eli, yeah, there's really been no. They're not going after Eli for whatever reason. We know. I mean, they'll prosecute when there's clear evidence. Like in the Sam Britton case. If you guys know, the Sam Britton case is the non-binary official who actually worked for the Biden administration caught stealing luggage. So when there's clear evidence, they will go for it. But Eli sits out here and just admits to it. Like at one point said, I'm now a proud criminal in Mississippi for aiding and abetting life-saving medication for youth. So in all these states that Eli is sending, Eli is saying, I am a proud criminal here. And nobody's looking. Like this is how you get a warrant. Social media posts admitting to this stuff is how you get a warrant to say to search like Eli's computer and stuff like that. But need not worry, because let's hope that Eli might have come to the wrong state and coming to Georgia and admitting this. So let's keep our fingers crossed that Chris Carr actually does something, which I have faith in the Attorney General here. But then it's really interesting too. So I want to call this other person out too that actually hosted Eli. Their name is Cass Mood, who is a Netherlands-born professor of international affairs at the University of Georgia. Apparently, they work with the Center of Research on Extremism out of Norway, out of the University of Oslo, out of Norway. They also work with the Center for Right-Wing Studies out of the University of California, Berkeley, and the Center of Analysis of the Radical Right. Think about this is the fact that somebody is at a university level kind of shows you that it seems like the University of Georgia has kind of gone woke with the rest of them. I mean, we see all this stuff happening all the time. So the fact that somebody's out there studying specifically radical right-wing ideologies, not just extremist ideologies, shows you the bias. Now, I would be interested to see if the University of Georgia has somebody that studies the radical left-wing ideologies. That would be interesting to see. But yeah. Eli did shoot back at me on this one, said that they enjoyed the laugh is what Eli said. So I actually responded to that as well and just pointed out the narcissism that Eli has. It's let me see. Let me see if I might be able to go find this. Let me see though. Yeah, Mafia Guido says all universities are woke. That's what it's starting to look like. They are now like left-wing propaganda factories in recent years, and it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad when you see like what's happening to the universities. It wasn't completely like that when I was in school, but yeah, I mean, we see they will shut down anybody who's right-wing speaking at their universities. Now that they have all these DEI, administrators in the school. And then you saw there was a video not too long ago where the DEI person, I think it was even at Stanford, basically shut down the conversation when the one person was talking. Like it was the Supreme Court justice, and it was on free speech, and they were talking about extremist speech and how universities are supposed to challenge your ideas and teach you to think and not what to think. But yeah, so this was my responsibility. Complete narcissism from Eli. The only reason you should worry about being in Georgia is because you're a criminal. Trans people are not targeted in the state. I've been all over